Damien Chazelle, after the groundbreaking success of La La Land, has once again reunited with Ryan Gosling to tell the story of Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, in the aptly titled First Man. This is somewhat of a departure for Chazelle, with his previous two films being jazz-heavy musical pieces, Whiplash and the aforementioned La La Land, both of which are fantastic movies. This is the first time the story of the infamous moon landing has been brought to the big screen, which is astounding because we are coming up to 50 years since that giant leap for mankind, and with it being an untold story, being helmed by one of the best directors working in Hollywood today, naturally expectations were high for this. I must unfortunately confess myself disappointed. This isn't a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it is quite a powerful piece of filmmaking, filled with some solid performances. The moon landing itself is expertly crafted, with deafening silence moving the audience in the way that pure sound design could never do in these scenarios. As someone who hates it when sound is depicted in space in films, I am glad that this film stuck with scientific accuracy in that regard. I also love how calm every astronaut is no matter what the scenario they are placed in. This is another accurate to life thing, as no matter how terrifying the situations are, the astronauts and the command center personnel never give away any form of panic in their voices and always remain professional. Chazelle goes against the trend of Hollywoodizing these elements, and whilst they may seem soulless performances to the casual viewer, they are keeping true to the tale. The bond between Neil and his wife Janet is fantastic and is well and truly the heart of this film. I only wish I had a little more time together in this. We also get some fantastic sequences edited together, and the scenes such as the family meal before the mission are really reserved but filled with quality. Being near 2.5 hours long, it is a really long film, but it never feels that way, and that's always a sign of an engrossing story. That being said, the film lacks focus. For one, Neil Armstrong, for being the first man to walk on the moon, has kind of faded into the history books. Nobody knows who Neil is aside from him being the one that walked on the moon. Considering this film is centered around him and gives little mention of Buzz or Michael, I hope they would at least delve into the who Neil Armstrong real is. It bugged me in the trailer that the other two astronauts are given little mention. Michael I can understand, but Buzz walked on the moon too, and in this film he literally shows up to introduce himself, then doesn't appear until mission time. That could work if we came to get Neil, but honestly watching this I still don't have any new outlook on the first man. We have a tragedy early on in this that is apparently a drive for him, but is literally over in 5 minutes and is hardly ever mentioned again until a big character moment towards the end. The film seems conflicted whether to focus on the space race or Neil and his family, meaning it feels choppy and unfocused at times. I don't really understand why Neil was so focused on the moon, nor does any astronaut even acknowledge the feat they might pull off. So when it happens, it doesn't feel as big of a deal as it should be. Yes, we know the end game already, but at least build on it. Astronauts die, and I for the life of me can't remember any of the names and feel very little for these characters, despite the film clearly playing them like tragedies, which they should really feel like. Neil is portrayed as this consistent robot, and if that's what they were going for, then great job. But it made it very hard to care about his big moment, and this lack of focus even further deepens the annoyance of the lack of acknowledgement of the other two astronauts. This takes nothing away from Ryan Gosling, as he is fantastic. Usually when a character is effectively a robot, it's usually down to a bad performance, but Gosling does a great job. It is a highly non-verbal performance for him, and if you want to know what he's really thinking, look at his expressions, not his words. If I had to describe Neil as anything based on his portrayal in this film, I would say he was highly focused and not letting his emotions get in the way, which to his credit meets that mindset. But he is outclassed by Clair, who plays his wife Jeanette. Neil is focused on the job and doesn't want to face the grim reality, and Clair is pulling it back with great effect. Awards are definitely on the horizon for her. As for the others, I am sad to say I can't think of any particular performance that stuck out as good or bad, which sucks as this film boasts talents such as Jason Clarke, Olivia Hamilton and Pablo Schreiber. Why is the film nearly 2.5 hours long so devoid of standout performances? Overall, First Man should have picked a side when it came to how to tell the story, because it never fully commits to either the slow progress over 8 years it took to put a man on the moon, or showing the human side of Neil Armstrong. It's Chazelle's worst film, but it's not a bad film. Yet you know a director's talented when their worst is still good. And First Man just feels like it's missing something that would have pushed it to a classic. Ergo, it needs more sugar. So First Man, have people seen it? Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Hit the round subscribe button for more reviews coming all the time. This is that Spike Hair Podcast, signing off.